We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Takaichi coming up in the next hour. President Trump warns Hamas that it will be eradicated if it breaches Gaza deal with Israel. Vice President J.D. Vance heads to Israel to talk to Netanyahu as body of one hostage handed over as part of U.S. brokered ceasefire. US and Australia signed rare earth deal to counter China's dominance as Trump promises submarines. Japan coalition deal paves way for Takaichi to be first woman prime minister as lawmakers voting to confirm her as the new prime minister. Amazon.com cloud service returns to normal operations after internet outage causes global turmoil among thousands of sites. And on to the details now. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that Hamas would be eradicated if it breaches the Gaza deal with Israel. Well, Trump's comments came as Vice President J.D. Vance headed to Israel to join two senior U.S. envoys who traveled there after weekend violence threatened to break the agreement. Trump criticized Hamas for recent actions in Gaza, including alleged public executions of rivals and collaborators, and for what he described as violent behavior during the fragile transitional period. President Trump said he wanted to see the truce to be given some time to hold, but signaled that the United States and allies were ready to act if Hamas violated the deal.
You know, we have 59 countries that agreed to the deal. We have a peace in the Middle East for the first time ever. We made a deal with Hamas that, you know, they're going to be very good, they're going to behave, they're going to be nice, and if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated, and they know that.
Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he will discuss regional challenges and opportunities with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. Addressing Israel's parliament, the Knesset in Jerusalem, Netanyahu has expressed his intention to collaborate with President Trump on advancing peace agreements in the region. He also mentioned the 16 slain hostages in Hamas captivity, calling for the urgent need to bring all remaining captives home.
We will discuss mainly two issues, about the security challenges we are facing and about the political opportunities we are facing. We will overcome the challenges and will realize the opportunities. 16 slain hostages remain in Gaza, of which 2 are foreign citizens from Thailand and Tanzania, and 14 Israeli citizens.
Well, a convoy carrying a body handed over by Hamas in Gaza, said to be of a deceased hostage, arrived at Israel's National Center for Forensic Medicine in Tel Aviv on Monday night. The remains of the hostages sent to the National Institute for Forensic Medicine, where identification procedures will be carried out. Under a U.S.-mediated agreement to end the war in Gaza and release hostages, Hamas released 20 living hostages and was to release 48 slain hostages, but as of Monday night has only handed 14 bodies. One of them was not a hostage. In exchange for the hostages, Israel released nearly 2,000 convicted Palestinian prisoners and detainees, among other steps under the deal. And the body of the Nepalese student Bipin Joshi, who was taken hostage by Hamas since the October 7, 2023, was returned to Kathmandu on Monday. 3 weeks after arriving, Joshi was kidnapped by Hamas. His body was handed over by Hamas to Israel last Monday. Mourners previously paid their respect to him during a memorial service on Sunday in Israel. His relatives, interim Nepalese Prime Minister Sushila Karki and Israeli ambassador to Nepal, Shmulik Eri Bas, attended the ceremony. Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met on Monday with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The meeting came after weekend violence threatened to wreck a fragile U.S. brokered ceasefire in Gaza. The Israeli spokesperson in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, Sosh Bedrosian, stated that the state of Israel will not accept any violations of the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and the IDF will respond with force to any violation that endangers the security of our soldiers and its citizens.
The state of Israel will not accept any violations of the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and the IDF will respond with force to any violation that endangers the security of our soldiers and its citizens. Now, following the series of attacks in response to Hamas violating the ceasefire and attacking our soldiers, around 9 p.m. Sunday Israel time, the IDF began the renewed enforcement of the ceasefire. We will not only continue to uphold the ceasefire agreement, but we will enforce it. Let it be known and understood.
Well, Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir on Monday called for the enactment of a law allowing the death penalty for those convicted of terrorism. As Israel's parliament opened its winter session, Ben-Gvir urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resume intense military operations in Gaza and dismantle Hamas. And for more, we have Akshay Dongre joining us. Well, Akshay, given President Trump's strong warning about the potential eradication of Hamas and simultaneously Vice President J.D. Vance also heading for Israel, what implications might this have for the U.S. diplomatic efforts and neutrality, most importantly, in the ceasefire monitoring process?
Well, as far as the neutrality is concerned, hardly there is any Lipakshi, because US has actively backed, it has supported, it has been an ally of Israeli defense forces, of the Israeli government. Hamas has support from the West Asian nations, a few of them at least, including Qatar and some of the fighting forces there, like the Houthis. As far as the neutrality is concerned, there is an illusion of neutrality, but there is none. Because we are seeing that the Israeli Defense Forces have continued operation in Gaza. However, there has been hardly any condemnation from the US side of these targeted attacks that are going on against Hamas targets. However, the US president has threatened that if Hamas continues any kind of retaliation or any kind of action against Israel, then there clearly are going to be repercussions, and the group will be annihilated. We are seeing that yes, there are instances that are happening of ceasefire violations, but as far as the overall situation is concerned, though there were initially indications coming in that this is actually going to be a permanent solution, but nothing of that sort has happened so far, and what we are seeing is a very, very volatile and dangerous situation. Irrespective of what claims are being made by either sides, both maintain a clear trust deficit. That is one of the most difficult challenge for the peacemaking process there in the region.
Absolutely, trust deficit there. But Akshay, tell me, how does the disparity between the expected and the actual number of the hostage bodies returned by Hamas affect the overall stability of the ceasefire, because everything right now is on stack?
Well, the situation is being monitored by both sides, because, like I said, the trust deficit is so high that the Hamas believes that if all the hostages are returned, then they lose all the leverages for any kind of ceasefire deal or peacemaking deal there. Similarly, Israel also is apprehensive about the intentions of Hamas. They think that the bodies will not be returned, the hostages will not be returned unless Hamas makes further demands of more prisoners to be swapped with the hostages, or the attacks from the fringe elements at least will continue against the Israeli targets. So it's quite fragile right now. What we can observe in the last few weeks at least. The situation remains quite fragile. The trust deficit remains very high. There is no there is hardly any pressure as far as the Western allies are concerned, because ultimately the peacemaking process will have to be initiated by the two parties that are involved. And as far as the questions on the violation of ceasefire, US has clearly said that it is not going to be the US troops that will target Hamas if it refuses to return the hostages, or if it refuses to abide by the ceasefire deal. But it is going to be the countries that have agreed to send their troops in to ensure peace in the region, and they will be taking on Hamas targets. So, claims and counterclaims are being made. There is no clarity as such that who is calling shots, because there are so many parties involved now that the situation has become quite complicated at this time.
Absolutely no clarity as such right now, Akshay. But what does the push by Israeli leaders like Itamar Ben-Gvir for harsher measures such as the death penalty and renewed military action, what he's mentioning, signal about the overall ceasefire agreement?
Well, like we have been reporting, Lipakshi, for many days, there is a fringe element that remains in Hamas that went against the ceasefire deal, and there was an attack near the Rafah border. Where two Israeli people lost their lives. Similarly, there are also right-wing groups, more for the far-right groups in the Israeli government as well, who are supporting the Benjamin Netanyahu government. They're calling for renewed action against Hamas, disarmament of the group completely. Many have called for even harsher measures as to occupation of the Gaza Strip. So there are both the sides have these more radical voices that are perhaps one of the biggest challenge for this ceasefire deal.
All right, Akshay, thank you so much for all those details. And moving on, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will attend a meeting of Ukraine's allies known as the Coalition of the Willing in London on Friday. French President Emmanuel Macron confirmed as Kyiv tries to bolster support in its conflict against Russia. The Coalition of the Willing, formed by France and Britain in February, has been holding talks for months to outline future military support for Ukraine. While the group aims to ensure long-term defense commitments to Ukraine, Zelensky on Monday painted his meeting last week with President Donald Trump as a success that yielded progress on acquiring new air defense systems. And the EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said Trump is sincere about trying to end the conflict in Ukraine, but talks which exclude Ukraine and Europe will be inconclusive. European Union officials encourage new measures to support Ukraine's energy security, adding the latest package of sanctions on Russia will not be the last.
I think President Trump is sincere in trying to end this war. That is very clear. We also want to end this war. Ukrainians definitely want to end this war. Who doesn't want to end this war is Russia. We should not be distracted. I think our course here is very, very clear. Our point is that we have to make also Russia to want peace. And that's why we are working, also trying to convince our allies all across the world that nothing can come out of these meetings if Ukraine or Europe is not part of it.
Well, US President Donald Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese signed a critical minerals agreement on Monday as part of a wide-ranging critical minerals agreement signed with an aim of countering China's hold over the industry. Both countries will contribute $1 billion over the next 6 months for joint projects. The US Export-Import Bank, EXIM, said it sent 7 letters of interest totaling more than $2.2 billion to advance US-aligned critical minerals projects in Australia. Australia said in a statement that it would provide up to $200 million in concessional equity financing for the project, which includes off-take rights for the Australian government, while the US would also make an equity investment with off-take rights.
We are discussing critical minerals and rare earths, and we're going to be signing an agreement that's been negotiated over a period of 4 or 5 months. And it was sort of good timing that we got it done just in time for the visit. And we worked together very much on rare earths, critical minerals, and lots of other things.
And still to come on DT India News Hour. Maduro defends Colombia against Trump's tariff threats, calls nations Siamese twins. A tornado described by authorities as storm of rare intensity rips through northern Paris suburbs. And White House to get first ever permanent ballroom, realizing a 150-year presidential dream.
Indian industries are facing pressure because of President Trump's tariff threats.
Even tariffs are part of the story, actually. If you were to look at the whole story of the deindustrialization of India, it began in many ways under the British rule. They say, oh, it's not our fault. India fell behind because you missed the bus for the Industrial Revolution. My answer is, we missed the bus is because you threw us under its wheels.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on amidst all this, as the US-China trade war intensifies, soybeans and rare earths have emerged as flashpoints in a high-stakes geopolitical standoff. Now, with China halting American soybean imports and tightening control over rare earth exports, President Trump has responded with sharp rhetoric and strategic pressure. Also, the upcoming Trump-Xi meeting in South Korea could be pivotal, but allies remain wary of the fallout. Meanwhile, farmers reel from economic strain and global supply chains brace for the impact.
China imports 61% of global soybeans. The US once sent 31% of its crop there. Used in feed and oil, soybeans are strategic. In response to US tariffs, China stopped buying from the US, turning to Brazil and Argentina instead. US farmers now face low prices, high costs, and drought-driven hardship.
One of the things I want is China's going to buy soybeans. I want China to stop with the fentanyl. Very, normal things. I don't want them to play the rare earth game with us.
But you want them to, but do you think they will make a deal on soybeans?
I do believe, yeah, because otherwise I'm not going to make a deal. No, I want them to buy. Our farmers have been boycotted by China as a negotiating point. I don't want that. Our farmers are great, and in particular our soybean farmers, and I want them to start buying soybeans at least in the amount that they were buying before. And I believe they'll be able to do it.
China produces 70% of rare earths and processes 90%, giving it global control. The US says China uses this as trade leverage. Trump warned of national security risks. China now restricts items with over 0.1% rare earth magnets, even if made abroad, affecting electronics, EVs, and machinery. Exporters need Chinese approval, adding global compliance hurdles.
And so you see many of the allies sort of caught in a trap where they both want the US and China to come to some kind of deal, but they're all very concerned about their exposure to the consequences of that deal, because I think the general perception is Donald Trump, the Trump administration in Washington, is out for itself. It is America first.
China's economy grew 4.8% year-on-year in Q3, with quarterly growth at 1.1% beating forecasts. Momentum is fading due to property woes, weak spending, and trade tensions. The Trump-Xi meeting at the APEC summit in South Korea October 29 to November 1 is still scheduled, despite tariff and export disputes. The summit may mark a shift in US-China ties. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, a divided U.S. appeals court ruled that Donald Trump can send National Guard troops into Portland, Oregon, despite objections by the leaders of the city and the state, giving the Republican president an important legal victory as he dispatches military forces to a growing number of Democratic-led locals. A three-judge panel of the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals granted the Justice Department's request to put on hold a judge's order that had blocked the deployment while a legal challenge to Trump's action plays out. The court said that sending in the National Guard was an appropriate response to protesters who had damaged a federal building and threatened to U.S. immigration and custom enforcement officers. And as the U.S. government shutdown entered its 21st day and the fourth week on Tuesday, marking the longest full closure in history, the National Nuclear Security Administration began furloughing 1,400 employees, leaving only 375 essential staff. This unprecedented move, the first since the agency's 2000 creation, affects sites like Pantex in Texas and Y-12 National Security Complex in Tennessee, responsible for maintaining America's 5,177 nuclear warheads, including 1,770 deployed ones. Amid escalating tensions, Senate Democrats rejected a House-passed funding bill for the 11th time in a 50-43 vote demanding renewal of health care subsidies for 24 million Americans. U.S. President Trump urged the Democrats to compromise, warning of further measures, while House Speaker Mike Johnson highlighted national security risks. And Colombian President Gustavo Petro met with the U.S. representative in Bogota on Monday as the two countries sought to defuse a diplomatic crisis triggered by U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to impose new tariffs and his accusation on Colombian president. The meeting came after Colombia recalled its ambassador from Washington following Trump's weekend comments, which the Colombian government described as offensive. Also, the dispute has intensified following U.S. military strikes on vessels allegedly transporting drugs. Petro has objected to the U.S. military strikes against vessels in the Caribbean, which have killed dozens of people aboard the vessels. And Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro defended Colombia after U.S. President Donald Trump threats to raise tariffs on the South American nation and stop all payments to it. Emphasizing the ties between the two nations, Maduro referred to Colombia and Venezuela as Siamese twins, saying whatever has to do with Colombia has to do with Venezuela.
Colombia knows we are one. We are Siamese twins. And whatever has to do with Colombia has to do with Venezuela. And whatever has to do with Venezuela has to do with Colombia. As a Colombian military officer wrote to me 2 weeks ago, if they touch Venezuela, they touch Colombia. We are a single homeland at heart, and these aren't just empty words. I know what I am saying.
Del corazón.
Well, Argentina's central bank signed a $20 billion exchange rate stabilization agreement with the U.S. Treasury Department 6 days ahead of a key midterm election. The agreement sets forth terms for bilateral currency swap operations between the U.S. and Argentina. The arrangement with banks and investment funds would be backed by International Monetary Fund, special drawing rights held in the Treasury's Exchange Stabilization Fund that will be converted to dollars. Also, the central bank BCRA lauds that such operations will allow the BCRA to expand its set of monetary and exchange rate policy instruments, including the liquidity of its international reserves. The BCRA said the pact was part of a comprehensive strategy to enhance its ability to respond to foreign exchange and capital markets volatility. And following earlier incidents of drones violating airspaces, a significant development has emerged from the United Kingdom. Britain's Defence Secretary John Healey has announced sweeping measures to counter escalating drone threats during a speech at the Lord Mayor's Defence and Security Lecture in London. Well, as per the British Defence Secretary, troops will gain new legal powers enshrined in the forthcoming Armed Forces Bill to shoot down unidentified drones over military sites, expanding beyond current non-lethal options like signal jamming. Healey cited September's incursion of 19 Russian drones into Polish airspace, violations of Estonian skies and election meddling in Moldova as evidence of Moscow's broadening campaign. Well, the government also unveiled successful trials of supersonic Martlet missiles for drone interception by Royal Navy helicopters.
Russian aggression has escalated. It's extended even further into the west. Each month, Ukraine suffers more drones launched in attack. And last month we saw 19 cross the Polish border. Days later we saw Russian jets violate Estonian airspace. And while at the same time Russia mounted a concerted campaign to subvert Moldovan elections. Here at home, we continue to defend ourselves daily against threats that range from the seabed to cyberspace. And we will always do what's needed to defend British people. And as we speak, we're developing new legal powers to bring down unidentified drones over UK military bases.
Well, the Louvre Museum on Monday denied contacting Israeli intelligence firm CGI Group following a high-profile jewel heist at the Paris Museum. CGI Group, based in Tel Aviv, claimed the museum had sought its help in identifying the thieves and recovering 9 stolen pieces, citing the firm's past success with a similar case in Dresden in 2019. The Louvre, however, stated it had made no such request. CGI CEO later suggested the approach may have come through intermediaries, possibly linked to the museum's insurers or other associated entities. CGI made similar claims of involvement in the Dresden case, which that museum also denied. French police are currently searching for 4 suspects who stole several priceless items, including a diamond-covered crown that was dropped during their escape. And Bolivia's President-elect Rodrigo Paz, speaking in La Paz with Vice President-elect Edmund Lara, committed to restoring institutional stability, securing fuel supplies and strengthening global relations ahead of the November 8th inauguration. Following a decisive runoff victory, Paz emphasized reconciliation and transparency to move beyond nearly 2 decades of movement for socialism governance. Rodrigo Paz addressed Bolivia's economic challenges, noting $60 billion in lost gas revenues and $40 billion in debt from prior administrations. Well, he also announced ongoing discussions with the U.S. and regional leaders to bolster energy security and promised an assertive approach to enhance Bolivia's economic and political presence internationally.
We have extended a hand to all political forces in Parliament because I believe the mandate of the Bolivian people is not confrontation. It is not violence in the streets, but rather the opposite, to restore lost institutional order, and in that, the National Assembly has a fundamental role. Our future government gives this priority, the reconciliation of visions, of projects, and the urgent need to move the country forward.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A tornado described by authorities as storm of rare intensity ripped through northern Paris suburbs on Monday, toppling 3 cranes and killing a 23-year-old construction worker. The tornado left 10 people injured as it tore roofs from buildings and mangled structures. Emergency crews were deployed to the affected areas to assist with the response efforts. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a White House East Wing expansion. For the first time in the history of the White House, a permanent ballroom is being constructed on the grounds, a dream Trump said has been shared by every U.S. president for more than 150 years. The new ballroom is expected to cost over $250 million, with Trump stating that he and private donors would cover the expense. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Embassies across continents celebrate Diwali with rituals, dance and unity, from New Delhi to Monrovia to Singapore. Sensex Nifty opened for 1-hour Muhurat trading today to mark auspicious Diwali tradition. And Defence Minister Rajnath Singh pays tribute at National Police Memorial on Police Commemoration Day.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar.
Johar. Arey, it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Takaichi elected Japan's first woman prime minister after winning 237 votes in lower house. Global congratulations pouring over her election as new Japan prime minister. President Trump warns Hamas that it will be eradicated if it breaches Gaza deal with Israel. Vice President J.D. Vance heads to Israel to talk to Netanyahu's body of one hostage handed over as part of the U.S. brokered ceasefire. Amazon.com cloud service returns to normal operations after internet outage causes global turmoil among thousands of sites. Well, moving on, an historic milestone for Japanese politics. The lower house of Japan's parliament elected Sanae Takaichi as the country's first female prime minister on Tuesday. The 64-year-old conservative lawmaker, who became the Liberal Democratic Party's leader earlier this month after a runoff victory over Shinjiro Koizumi, secured 237 votes, surpassing the 233-seat majority threshold, clearing the way for her inauguration as the country's first female premier later in the day. She now awaits a formality vote in the upper house, succeeding Shigeru Ishiba, who resigned amid election setbacks. Takaichi's appointment follows a new coalition between the Liberal Democratic Party and the Japan Innovation Party, ending a 26-year-old alliance with Komeito. An admirer of Margaret Thatcher, she pledges to boost women's cabinet representation. Global leaders, including U.S. Ambassador George Glass, congratulated her with her international debut set at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea. Also, social media erupted with celebratory posts hailing the breakthrough for gender equality. And Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh, Chief of the Air Staff, visited the Ladakh sector to celebrate Diwali with Indian Air Force and Indian Army personnel stationed there. He interacted with the troops, praising their unwavering dedication and professionalism in protecting India's borders amid harsh, high-altitude environments. Singh extended warm festive greetings to the personnel and their families, emphasizing their vital role in national security. The vital event took place at a high-altitude airfield, as depicted in shared photographs showing a group pose before a Happy Diwali banner. Well, it's lights, laughter and limitless joy across the globe as Diwali, the festival of lights, illuminated hearts and horizons from Shanghai to Sydney. Here's how the world joined in the celebration of India's most radiant festival.
Celebrations erupted across continents as Diwali lit up skies and spirits worldwide. From Asia to Europe, the Festival of Lights was marked with grandeur, color and cultural splendor. In Shanghai, the Consulate General of India and the Indian Association hosted the region's largest ever Diwali celebration, with over 800 guests joining for Lakshmi Puja, cultural performances and a feast of Indian delicacies that won hearts across communities. In Japan, the Indian embassy turned festive cheer into melody with music, dance, quizzes and fireworks lighting up the night sky as the Indian diaspora celebrated together. Across Sri Lanka, Diwali joy resonated through dance, music, and cuisine as President Anura Kumara Dishanayake extended warm greetings to the Indian community. Taking to social media platform X, he wrote, and I quote, "On this blessed Deepavali, my warmest wishes to all Hindus in Sri Lanka and abroad. As lamps are lit in every home, we pray that this festival's light dispels the darkness in our hearts and illuminates our collective path. This celebration of good over evil mirrors our government's resolve to defeat the threats to our nation's progress, from drug abuse to extremism. We are committed to building a safe, just, and thriving nation where every individual's freedom and dignity are preserved." Meanwhile, Dubai sparkled brighter than ever. Streets, markets, and landmarks dazzled with lights and decor as residents and visitors soaked in the festive spirit. UAE Prime Minister and Dubai's ruler, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, conveyed his Diwali wishes, celebrating the triumph of light over darkness. In a statement, he said, and I quote, "Warmest wishes and greetings to those celebrating Diwali in the UAE and around the world. May this festival of lights bring peace, safety, and prosperity to you and your loved ones. Happy Diwali." Meanwhile, the Australian High Commission hosted a vibrant celebration, calling it a celebration to remember. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese too shared his heartfelt Diwali greetings.
I wish everyone a very happy Diwali. As you gather to celebrate the great Festival of Lights, may this special time uplift you with hope for a bright future. May it be an absolutely wonderful celebration.
Global leaders joined in, celebrating Diwali's universal message of hope, renewal, and positivity. New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon extended warm wishes to all celebrating the Festival of Lights.
Happy Diwali, everyone, as families and friends come together all across New Zealand to celebrate the Festival of Lights. I want to take a moment to acknowledge what this time represents. Of course, it is about the triumph of light over darkness, hope over despair, and good over evil. It's also a time to reflect, to reconnect, and to spread happiness and positivity in our lives, and the world needs a lot of that. So I'm wishing you and all of your loved ones a wonderful Diwali and a prosperous year ahead. Happy Diwali.
United Nations also wished Indians Happy Diwali. In a post on X, the Global Bloc said, and I quote, "During Diwali, the festival of lights celebrated in India and by followers of many faiths around the world. Clay lamps are symbolically lit. We wish a happy and safe Diwali to all those celebrating." From temples to towers, from hearts to horizons, Diwali once again proved that light knows no borders. As the world glows in festive joy, the spirit of Diwali shines brighter than ever. Amish Mahajan's report for DD India.
And moving on, Indian stock markets will open for a special one-hour Muhurat trading session today from 1:45 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. this afternoon. This annual Diwali tradition is considered an auspicious time for investors to make fresh trades, believed to bring prosperity in the year ahead. Markets will remain closed on Wednesday, October 22nd, and normal trading will resume on Thursday. Market experts are hopeful for better earnings growth and supportive policies this year. And Shama Mishra joins us live from Mumbai for more on this. Well, Shama, the annual Diwali tradition is considered an auspicious time for investors. How significant is this Muhurat trading in terms of actual market movement and the investor sentiment, especially given the broader outlook on earnings and the policy support, especially this year?
Well, Apache, starting with the wishes, Diwali wishes to all our viewers, a very happy Diwali. In Maharashtra, people would be celebrating the Lakshmi Pujan today, and even the investor community, they would be celebrating their Lakshmi Pujan today, followed by a special one-hour trading session, which is called the Muhurat trading session. Now, this is the name itself, the Muhurat word itself is auspicious because the investor community, the trader community, they believe that this is the perfect time to invest, and in this particular 1 hour, which is going to take place today, both at NSE and BSE, starting around 1:45 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. So this is 1 hour special program. where the investors, brokers, trader community, they all come together and they invest. And this is more of symbolically trading, because they believe that putting any money at this particular time during this particular muhurat will give them a lot of benefits, will give them a lot of returns, and that is why it is symbolic. People do put money in this particular muhurat trading generally for a longer term because they don't want to take the money out. The significance, obviously, as I said earlier, that the word muhurat itself is very auspicious, and that is why this 1 hour particular trading session is very auspicious. It is also said that the trading done, the market pattern during this particular trading at the end of the session will obviously determine the year coming ahead. So if the market straight goes in green, then generally it is considered that the entire year would be going in green, and similar with the red trading as well. Generally it is seen, and mostly it is seen, that markets have shown a green pattern throughout the year after the muhurat trading, and we have seen both in NSE and BSE, the markets this year and a particular time of the year has generally shown strong sentiments because of the domestic factors. You've also mentioned about the policies that the government is bringing in, and the thrust is definitely on vocal for local and also Atmanirbhar Bharat.
All right.
So a lot of policies coming in to strengthen our own sectors, and in coming future, there are so many sectors that India earlier, which was invested in the
All
outside
right.
market or the outside sectors, will have back in our own sectors.
All right, so festive optimism at its best right now. Thank you so much, Shama, for all those details. And moving on the occasion of Diwali, the Swami Narayan Akshardham Temple in Robertsville, New Jersey lit up the night sky with its iconic fireworks display. Well, the Indian diaspora and Americans gathered in large numbers to witness the vibrant celebration marking the festival with devotion and joy. Well, U.S. stocks jumped on Monday with finance and technology shares providing much of the upside muscle that resulted in the revived risk appetite, and investors grew less fearful about regional bank credit quality. According to the preliminary data, the S&P 500 gained 1.07%, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 1.37%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 1.11%. Apple stock touched a record high, while Meta, Netflix and Alphabet posted solid gains. Third quarter earnings season has shifted into high gear. Meanwhile, in Asian markets, the yen held steady on Tuesday. Currencies were mostly range-bound in the early Asian session, with the dollar little changed as an ongoing U.S. government shutdown left investors flying blind on data ahead of next week's Federal Reserve meeting. And back home, President Draupadi Murmu will arrive in Thiruvananthapuram on Tuesday. She's on a 4-day visit to the South Indian state of Kerala. Tomorrow, President Murmu will visit the Sabarimala temple for darshan. On Thursday, she will unveil the statue of former President K.R. Narayanan at the Raj Bhavan, Thiruvananthapuram. The President will also attend the centenary celebrations of Sri Narayan Guru Samadhi. Further, President Draupadi Murmu will also participate in programs at St. Thomas College in Pala and St. Teresa's College in Ernakulam. And Defence Minister Rajnath Singh laid a wreath at the National Police Memorial in New Delhi on Tuesday to honour fallen police personnel on the Police Commemoration Day. The day marks the sacrifice of 10 policemen killed in an ambush by Chinese troops at Hot Springs in Ladakh on October 21, 1959. Rajnath Singh paid tribute at the Wall of Valour. A joint parade of Central Armed Police Forces and Delhi Police also takes place on this day.
माननीय मुख्य अतिथि महोदय द्वारा अमर शहीदों को पुष्प चक्र अर्पण कर माननीय मुख्य अतिथि महोदय द्वारा शहीदों के सम्मान में पुष्प चक्र अर्पित किए गए। हम सबके प्रेरक वीर सेनानियों ने देश की
Well, a solemn air hung over Mumbai's Dadar police ground in the western Indian state of Maharashtra as officers, dignitaries and citizens gathered on Tuesday to observe the Police Commemoration Day. The ceremony began with a wreath laying led by Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, senior officials and families of fallen officers honouring the 191 police personnel across the country who were martyred in the past year. A roll of honour was read, followed by a 2-minute silence. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi shared a heartfelt message on X for Police Commemoration Day, saluting the courage and supreme sacrifice of Indian police personnel. Prime Minister Modi wrote on X, and I quote him, "On Police Commemoration Day, we salute the courage of our police personnel and recall the supreme sacrifice by them in the line of duty. The steadfast dedication keeps our nation and people safe. Their bravery and commitment in times of crisis and in moments of need are appreciable." And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. The air quality index around Delhi touched 368 on Tuesday morning, placing it in the very poor category. The spike in pollution levels comes amid post-Diwali smog and stagnant weather conditions, furthering deteriorating air quality across the capital. India Meteorological Department has issued an orange color warning for heavy rainfall in Tamil Nadu for the next 4 days. The IMD also estimated very heavy rainfall conditions over Puducherry and Karaikal for the next 2 days. A massive fire broke out last night in the hotel in Kasol, a popular tourist destination in the Parvati Valley of Kulu in Himachal Pradesh. The incident occurred at the top floor of the hotel. Fire brought under control. There are no reports of any injuries or casualties in the incident, but the top floor of the hotel has been completely gutted. And veteran actor Govardhan Asrani passed away in Mumbai yesterday at the age of 84. Family sources said Asrani breathed his last around 4 p.m. Best known for his role as the jailer in Sholay, he also starred in hits like Chupke Chupke, Bhool Bhulaiya, Dhamal and Bunty Aur Babli too. Originally from Jaipur, Rajasthan, Asrani was educated at St. Xavier's School in his hometown before embarking on a remarkable journey in Indian cinema. With a career spanning over 5 decades, Asrani's contribution to Hindi cinema, especially in the genre of comedy, was both prolific and profound. Also, Prime Minister Narendra Modi posted a heartfelt condolence message on X for the passing of veteran Bollywood actor and director Govardhan Asrani, who passed away on October 20th in Mumbai. Prime Minister Modi wrote in his X post, and I quote him, "Deeply saddened by the passing of Shri Govardhan Asrani ji, a gifted entertainer and a truly versatile artist. He entertained audiences across generations. He particularly added joy and laughter to countless lives through his unforgettable performances. His contribution to Indian cinema will always be cherished. My condolences to his family and admirers. Om Shanti." And still to come on DD India News Hour. West Indies pacer Shamar Joseph ruled out of 3-match series against Bangladesh due to shoulder injury. The Indian women's football team will face Iran in the first match of Tri-Nation tournament on Tuesday.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Moving on, now we tell you how embassies celebrated Diwali. The Embassy of the Kingdom of Netherlands in India hosted a vibrant Diwali celebration at its premises in New Delhi, fostering cultural exchange and unity among the staff, colleagues and friends. Ambassador Marisa Giradz and team members participated in traditional rituals, including lighting diyas and performing aarti with marigold garlands, as captured in the shared photos. Other embassies in Delhi, including Germany's, joined in annual Diwali observances, highlighting international solidarity. German ambassador to India, Dr. Philipp Ackermann, shared a vibrant video on X showcasing a Diwali celebration at the German embassy. The event featured traditional Indian decorations, dancing and cultural performances.
It is to dance together, to drink together, to eat together.
The event also highlighted the festival theme of light and unity. Ackermann emphasized the importance of cross-cultural exchange, noting how Indian colleagues invited German staff to join the festivities. Meanwhile, Embassy of India in Liberia hosted a grand Diwali celebrations at the residence of Ambassador Manoj Bihari Verma in Monrovia. The event brought together the Indian community, ambassadors, diplomats, international guests and Liberian friends to honor the Festival of Lights. Ambassador Verma delivered a warm speech extending Diwali greetings and emphasizing the festival symbolism of light overcoming darkness. Well, Singapore High Commission in India shared a captivating video from the Singapore Police Force celebrating Deepavali 2025. The production features officers from various home team agencies, including the Immigration and Checkpoints Authority, Singapore Prison Service and Central Narcotics Bureau, performing energetic dances and poses said to be Jan Nayagan. Theme from actor Thelapathy Vijay's repertoire. A highlight is the special guest appearance by Home Affairs Minister K. Shanmugam, who joins in the festivities with enthusiasm. And in some other news, Amazon.com cloud service returned to normal operations on Monday afternoon after an internet outage that caused global turmoil among thousands of sites, including some of the web's most popular apps like Snapchat and Reddit. It was the largest internet disruption since last year's CrowdStrike malfunction hobbled technology systems in hospitals, banks and airports, highlighting the vulnerability of world's interconnected technologies. According to Amazon AMZN.O, some AWS services had a backlog of messages that would take a few hours to process. AWS outage has affected major websites and apps globally. Users had complained of lingering difficulties using services such as digital wallet Venmo and video calling sites Zoom. The root cause has been traced to U.S. East 1 region. It was at least the third time in 5 years the AWS's Northern Virginia cluster, known as U.S. East 1, contributed to a major internet meltdown. Amazon did not address a request for more clarity about why that particular data center keeps being impacted. The problems stemmed from what is known as the Domain Name System, or DNS, which prevented applications from finding the correct address for AWS's DynamoDB API, a cloud database relied upon to store user information and other critical data. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. West Indies pace sensation Shamar Joseph has been ruled out of the ongoing 3-match series against Bangladesh due to shoulder injury. Joseph was eyeing a return to international cricket this weekend after missing the Test tour of India. However, the pacer has suffered another setback due to discomfort in his shoulder. So Joseph, who was included in the T20 international squad, however, he's been advised to consult a specialist to begin his rehabilitation process. Bangladesh tour, Joseph had missed the 2-match series in India owing to an unspecified injury. He's not played any competitive cricket since the conclusion of the Caribbean Premier League in September. And the Indian senior women's team will play the first match of the Tri-Nation International Friendlies against Iran on Tuesday at the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in Shillong. For head coach Crispin Chhetri, the match marks the beginning of a crucial preparation phase ahead of next year's AFC Women Asian Cup Australia 2026. It will be the first time in 9 years that the Blue Tigresses will play in Shillong in the Tri-Nation tournament. Iran and Nepal will face each other on October 24th. India will wrap up the FIFA window with a clash against Nepal on October 27th.
I think this is the time not to show our weakness. This is the time to show how strong we can be. I think the players have to start believing that also. I think we have embedded that seed in our mind that we are going to Brazil. Now it's just about how we nurture, like you said, how we plan our friendlies, with whom we want to play, how early we go to Australia. So that part only, the nurturing that seed to grow into a plant, that's the only remaining part.
Well, Kali Puja is celebrated across West Bengal on Diwali with special rituals held at Birbhum Tarapith Temple and Dakshinawar Kali Mata Temple to mark the occasion. People lit traditional diyas and burst firecrackers, adding a festive glow to the night and worshipping the goddess with devotion and joy. Well, the Golden Temple in Amritsar was also decorated with lights on Diwali and Bandi Chor Divas. Devotees gathered in large numbers, offering prayers and lighting lamps, celebrating the Sikh festival of freedom, justice and spiritual triumph. All right, that's all for this edition of DT India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world in the DT India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DT India. I'm Takaichi from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DT India News Hour.